Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, all the things. We are here in Caledon live with Carolynn Tersigni. My name is Lamont Daigle. I am with Tips Media, and we're here today with a beautiful Freedom Family Picnic and Market. As you can see behind us, we have beautiful authors. We've got beautiful people with olive oil. We've got Dr. Keys. We've got Tony on the mic. We've got music, and we've got Freedom Family people. Carolynn Tersigni, you've been involved in the Freedom lifestyle movement for quite some time.
I have.
And I think at the beginning I've met you in Woodbridge where you had a lifestyle center for some time. Maybe you could tell me a little bit more about that.
How it started, the Freedom Group? Or
well, what was your history?
Prior?
Yeah, prior to all that.
So, holistic practitioner, lifestyle center, life coach, designer, all rolled into one. COVID hit the family and it touched a lot of my clients, and I decided that we needed to do something together to bring all of us odd ducks together in the pond.
Yeah, because even though COVID had happened to the people, I think you were on the side of lifestyle changes way before that was going on, right?
Yes.
Even on the spiritual side
relevant
of things.
of what's going on in the world.
Yeah. Even with modalities, practitioners.
Yes.
You were there.
I've been here. I've been here.
How long would you say?
Happy to help. I've had my practice about 24 years.
24 years.
Lots of tools in my toolbox to help people, whatever they resonate with. They can start there and move through the system that I create. And everything is about unity, bringing people together. And with this beautiful new space, we get to be inside and outside, which is fantastic.
Wonderful.
Very exciting for me, actually, because I've never had it in this format before.
Right.
So.
I did meet you when you were in Woodbridge, and it was plain for me to see that even though you had a kind of a more commercial center when I met you, I knew that you had a more even-handed and more overall holistic approach to your mindset, which is really, in my opinion, why you attracted such a versatile freedom fighter out there, because the freedom fighters that you're dealing with aren't really fighting anything. As a matter of fact, we're kind of morphing into a new change in the world that needs to happen, right?
We are, and it's very much about realizing that if we actually want to see the change, we have to be the change, which is not, nothing new, honestly, but it's remembering that.
Yeah.
And so for the last 2 years especially, our group has evolved actually quite a bit from the beginning. And it has gotten to that spiritual foundation, which I think is what's going to actually be needed on the planet.
Yeah.
And so whatever we can do to empower people to realize that, whether it's speakers we bring in, like whatever it is, they're going to resonate with something, and it's going to touch their heart, and that's going to actually be how we actually shift.
Yeah.
Because we can't just keep calling out what's wrong and not having a solution to it. The solution is actually us.
Yep, it has to be.
It really is.
I mean, the word freedom fighter has been something that's been on our lips for quite some time, and I can attest to that, having been in the trenches for a good 4 years plus. But that's to be put aside, because the trauma of why we've gotten to this place in the first place triggers that kind of response that can sometimes look violent or a little bit revolutionary out there. But truly all we're trying to do is trying to bring the more divine aspects of humanity to the forefront. Okay?
And I think actually the COVID blessing was that it did that.
Yeah.
Like I called it the amplifier. It amplified what was going on in our families, in our workplaces, in our environments. And it made us, it kind of fast-tracked us to the point where we need to be making these changes. If it hadn't shown up, we could have actually probably had another 15, 20 years of just existing the way that we've been. So I think it was a blessing in disguise. I mean, I know that there's some things that have happened for families particularly, and it's touched a lot of us in different ways, but it also put us into that position that we needed to step forward and say, okay, so what am I actually contributing to this in a positive way?
Absolutely, I agree with
And it's
you.
not a new battle. I mean, when I listen to the stories of the 200 people in my group, we all have a similar thread in our group about why we're here. And it's all very, very common. And it's packaged differently for each story, but ultimately we've been practicing our whole life for this,
We certainly have.
And we decided that we wanted to be here to see this shift. So if we can look at that and the unity aspect, that's where it's at. Because if we keep sitting there going, well, I don't like this group and this group and this group and just splitting everybody, we're not going to get anywhere.
Well, I think that's another reason why I started working with Tips Media because really the acronym is Truth in Plain Sight. And considering, some of my history within the movement, is that we don't always agree face to face. We don't always agree with the tenets of what we think the new world is going to look like. And the people that work within those organizations can sometimes have tempers and fiery egos. And what we're doing right now is we're saying, you know what, let's just get back to basics again, get ourselves into community, and realize that in a republic or in a new community setting is that you should expect to not always get along with all viewpoints, all personalities and all egos. Because if we didn't have egos, folks, we're not asking you to destroy that and get rid of it. We're saying, look in the mirror and focus in as to what part of that ego you play in, and how do you work with other people's egos? I think it's a lot of fun now, especially when you're on the good side of realizing that that's a driving force for a lot of people. I think surrender is something that, I've heard on your lips for quite some time, and surrendering really to a higher force is something that I think a lot of people.
Because of my personal experiences in that state, it's emerging.
Yeah.
Because if we think that we're always trying to chase something outside of us, we're never going to get it. For me, the merge means that I just rest back and I'm united with my source. And if I operate from there, everything that I'm doing is going to be touched by that, and it's going to be lived through me. If I want to be bold and ego, I don't tend to use the word ego. If I want to lean forward and I think I'm going to do something better myself, that's where I'm leaning forward, and then I'm doing it by myself.
Right.
Right? And I think if people understand that instead of saying that everybody's got different egos, I kind of label us that we all have a different puzzle piece.
Wow.
And we're making a big picture. And you have your specialty,
Yeah.
I have mine. Everybody here has their specialty of that puzzle piece, which is unique to them. And yet we need all of those puzzle pieces to finish the picture. So that's why we don't have to all think the same. We don't have to all go to all the rallies the same. We can each do our little specialty, and that will complete our picture.
Well, the other day I just came up with this thought, and I'm going to use this as an excellent place to show it to you, and maybe you'll get the aha moment with me. Because if you look at the word ego, E-G-O, and you look at the word God, G-O-D, the only letter that's not matching in there is the E and the D, right?
Yeah.
So if you take that D and you switch it over to the E, that ego is like a bar in the middle that looks like jail, right? It looks like a jail, and as soon as you switch that E over, it becomes a D. And you can look at ego being that God in you, that force that we need right now.
It's your right mind and your wrong mind.
Right.
Which one are you going to operate from? The majority of the time. None of us, unfortunately right now on the planet, we don't have a lot of examples of people living in that right mind all of the time.
Right.
But a lot of us are aspiring to that. And if you catch yourself during the day, how much of that right mind am I in? Right? That's going to be, it's the accumulative, right? And it's also going to create our tipping point, which is what we're waiting for.
Yep.
Because not everybody on the planet has to nod their head the same way.
Right.
Really.
Yep.
We actually have a lot of, even with our own unity, like when we look at people, like that itself is worth thousands on the planet that are not. And if people understood that, I've worked in frequency and energy medicine for a long, long time. Right? And I've always known that if you really want to make a change, you need to get the closer to that source in order to make the change there, and it will get implemented in this lower dimension. Right? And that'll be how you actually exponentially change something.
Yeah, I think Dr. Hawkins has talked about that. Yogananda has talked about that. We've seen lots of different practitioners that have talked. Joe Dispenza talks about that. So I think the science is there. I think the right mind stuff is out there. The left mind stuff is out there. Now we're talking about that unity in the right way. Number one, you got to get your affairs in order. You got to get this house figured out. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to use that as a segue to say thank you so much for introducing us to all this, and thank you for having this event.
Thank you for being here. I so appreciate it.
And we're going to check out some of your people that are here today.
Beautiful people.
We're going to head into your beautiful center really soon, and
awesome.
We thank you for being here.
Thank
you. Check out tipsmedia.tv. This is also Carolynn Tersigni. She's with the Freedom Lifestyle Center here in Caledon, and we'll give you all the links really soon in the media. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Follow Truth in Plain Sight